back to Team Draft Super League. I'm David Williams, joined by William Jensen. Seems like there's a common theme in the booths, and it's nothing to do with our first names, as Athena said. It's two winners.
Yep.
It seems like you tuned up my teammate pretty quickly. I got a message, Huey won, and I was like, is that game one? No, the match.
We had a match where I won game one. My cards just matched up pretty well, and then game two we both mulliganed, and he stalled a little bit more. Like, I was able to take advantage of his slow start pretty well.
Yeah, what's your deck?
Blue white, like just blue white with some creatures, some flyers. I guess tempo, blue white tempo maybe I'd call it.
Yeah, blue white punishes you pretty hard actually in this format. It's not one of the dirtier decks, so if you don't have drops, you can easily get outclassed pretty quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
Matt was sort of trying to lean on Heaven to Earth in the second game, but I knew he had it from the draft, like not from deck list, but we figured out who took it, obviously. And
yeah, of course.
It became clear when he was playing green-blue ramp with Gift of Paradise that it was in his deck, so I was able to sort of be ready for it.
Yeah, my match was kind of boring. It's just two white-black grindy decks. It looked like, I just looked at the draft viewer now, it looks like neither of us have anything really good. It's just dudes.
Yeah, I was watching on the stream, even though Owen's in the room. I don't want to stand behind him and be tempted to talk. So I just keep my headphones on and I was watching. And I looked up your deck list. And I'm like, these guys really don't have any haymakers to draw, either one of them. But then you kept drawing the flyers. So,
Edifice is my haymaker, right?
Oh, sure. It. But I was like, maybe Owen can draw a Wrath or whatever. And, hopefully Dave doesn't have whatever mythic rare. And I was like, no, their best draws are just Talk Crop Elite for both of them or whatever.
It was pretty unexciting. I was worried, obviously I looked at the list now, but during the match I was worried. I'm like, what the hell was coming? Every draw phase, I'm like, something has to be coming. There has to be an art scheme or something incredible, but no, it just doesn't look like it's there. So it was a pretty weird draft. The cards didn't seem really powerful. Like, I have Brian Hacker here.
Yeah.
Team Draft. He's like the founder of Team Draft, the godfather of Team Draft. He's never seen this set. So like while we were drafting, I was like, this card's trash, this card's trash. Because he's like, which cards are good? And he's like, is this set pretty weak? And I'm like, actually, it's pretty powerful. It's just these packs didn't have a lot of good cards.
No, they didn't. I thought the same thing. There were a few good cards in the early picks, but after that, it wasn't like the late picks. It was like, I guess I'll take this stinging shot or whatever. Like, who cares? I didn't feel like there were a ton of spots later in the draft to make tough decisions about what cards to take out of other people's decks. I thought like it was very well defined. Like, the power level was very clear in all the packs, if that makes sense. Like, there was always one good card or zero good cards.
Yeah, I had a few small choices. My major choices were in the beginning, my first 3 or 4 picks, because I started out with a red card. I took Magma Spray, and I noticed I passed Oketra's Monument and Gravedigger. So I was assuming, Owen's going to take one of those too.
Right.
And that's a commit memory, but I know Reed's passing me. I've heard he likes blue. I felt like it could be a trap, but whatever. I'm open to it. I like it. But I also passed a black cartouche. And then the next pack, I believe there was a Wayward Servant. Oh, no, there was a Dread Wanderer that I ended up passing for another white card. So I was kind of like either red, white, or red, blue. And then there was Wayward Servant 4th, and I was like, all right, I've passed nothing but zombies. I'm like, I can't give Owen the nut deck. So I took the Wayward Servant, and then no blue or red came. So I guess it turns out it looks like Reed was in blue, red, black.
Yeah, Reed had taken, I guess, Deem-worthy first pick over Commit Memory. So makes sense. And then he probably figured you would take Commit and drafted some blue cards, I guess.
So I got into zombies, but I knew that Pack told Hacker, I'm like, Pack 2, I'm going to see probably nothing. I opened a Lord of the Accursed and was like, well, that's nice. But I didn't see much else at all. And then Pack 3, there was a little bit. But no, it really was kind of bad for Owen in that spot that the Wayward Servant 4th really just kind of put me in a deck because I didn't want to keep giving him more zombies.
Right.
Well, it sounds like he's up a game against Paul already pretty quickly, but they're ready for the match, so we can go ahead and watch Reed and Matt right now. So let's get to the match. Like when you unlock the character. All right. So someone made a comment, Huey, that you haven't been unlocked yet, like your special character, because you're kind of like silhouetted.
Shadows, yeah.
So looks like who's first here? TDSL 2. So that would be Matt's first. Decent opening draw. I don't like his deck at all. When we looked at our decks, I gave it about a 5. It has some powerful cards in the top end, but it's just not how I like to draft decks in this format. I'm all about tempo, cheap creatures, beat down.
Yeah, I didn't really study Matt's deck list because I've already played him, but you know, it wasn't the strongest deck I've ever seen Matt play in the games. It was a bit. I thought he would have a bit more. When we kind of thought he might have had a bit more creative deck because I think we thought he might have had 2 Spring to Mind, and we knew he'd have the opportunity to splash a lot. But in the end, it looked to me like, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't reviewed his deck list, but it was basically just Heaven Earth and a blue-green deck with some fairly average cards in it. Which obviously that happens in team draft, and like we said, I don't think the power level was particularly high. Like, it's possible Matt had himself set up to just be able to take any good cards he got and just didn't get any because there just weren't that many.
Yeah, and it looks like Reed is doing what I had to do. He's setting his stops.
Yeah, I have to do that before I play again. I just played the old-fashioned way in my first round because I tried to set them, but I must have messed up.
I like Reed's deck from what I just saw, though. It looks like blue-red. Grixis Control, Drakehaven is obviously outstanding. Lots of good value cards. I think, though, luckily for Matt, this is the kind of deck he might match up well against because this deck has late game and it doesn't really have it. It has Sandworm Convergence and another giant spell, but I can't remember what it is. So, Heaven Earth, which is good against the Drakes from Drakehaven. So I think it matches up pretty well. And like this early creature here, I mean, obviously it's going to get Gale Striked and then Electrified, it looks like, if he wants, but.
Yeah, I never had the pleasure of playing against the Sandworm Convergence in our match.
It's a pretty fair card. I'm not going to lie. I had it in the
Team
GP day one, and I won a lot of matches with it. It's hard to beat a 5/5 every turn.
Sure is.
So Matt's draw, it looks like it's going to lean heavily on this Exemplar strength because it doesn't really have anything else to be doing. I mean, I don't think Illusory Wrappings does much against Reed's hand. Maybe turn 5 it can stop a Horror of the Broken Lands.
Yeah, well, Reed doesn't really have much going on himself. I mean, he's got a way to deal with that creature, but other than that, he's got no pressure. Well, there's a Dune Beetle.
Speaking of pressure,
yeah, I take it all back.
All right. So it sounds like in the other match, Paul found his Trial of Zeal, which he has 6 cartouches. So if he finds it, it gets pretty absurd. So 2 guys with all their mana, all their colors. Yeah, it's just, I just, like, Matt has 2 cartouche of strength and 10 creatures.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like, these, people who are watching at home might not be that familiar with team draft. The decks are just inherently weaker. I mean, first of all, if people are trying to make you have weak decks, and second of all, even if you were to do a normal 6-man draft, the decks are weaker. That's just the way it breaks. And, obviously you don't want 10 creatures and 2 green cartouches. What are you going to do? You're going to play your creatures and the cartouches too good,
Yeah, I mean, especially when you're like my first 3 picks of pack 1 are my sideboard, and my first pick of pack 3 was an Honored Hydra, which I'm white-black. So you're also spending a lot of picks on cards that aren't your colors usually in these things, which makes the decks even weaker.
It's true. I mean, first pick of the draft, I took Insult to Injury. It's not in my deck. First pick, pack 2, I took Ronus because I thought Matt was green. That's not in my deck. So, I mean, you know how it is. It's like you work with what you got,
Yeah.
So Reed probably thinking here now he can, rather than go with the Gale Strike into Electrify, he can Gale Strike into Cycle Deemworthy, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, or you could just play Doom Beetle and block.
That's true, but
use Deemworthy later.
It's true, but he probably doesn't want to let the Exemplar build back up where he has to use the Electrify. I mean, he could do it next turn, but...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because it's one way you can play Doom Beetle, and then he could do it the following turn and have it open for 5, or cycling if he chooses. But it's probably better to just go ahead and deem it now.
Did Matt choose not to attack with Naga Vitalist?
Yeah, I don't know what his plan was there. There's not like any flash creatures. There's nothing to punish him.
I'm not sure what Reed's waiting for.
Yeah, I mean, Reed allows himself to get blown out by any kind of, like, giant growth here.
Maybe Matt just doesn't have anything. Like, Reed is pretty astute. He probably looked at Matt's deck list, and maybe there's just literally...
Yeah, if we have deck lists, then he knows. I know Matt has
Yeah.
nothing. We have deck lists.
Okay. Yeah, there's deck lists now.
So the fact that we have deck lists actually made me pass up things like Mighty Leap and Impeccable Timing at spots in the draft because they're way less impactful, especially against three of the best players in the world when you know they're in our deck list. So I felt like it's better just to have solid creatures.
Definitely true.
The value goes like in our match. I didn't know Owen had Mighty Leap. I mean, I knew from passing it, but I didn't know for sure, and it got me. But there's no chance that any of the six of us get kind of got by a trick when we have a choice. Obviously, if we have no choice, you'll have to block. But now that we all know,
I agree with that. I could see Reed playing Horror of the Broken Lands here to make good use of his mana, or I could see him just going ahead and casting the Electrify.
Yeah, I mean, if he plays Horror of the Broken Lands, it's going to work out. It still works out fine because it only has 3 tough. He can actually attack and exert, and then post-combat play the Cartouche to get rid of it. So by getting rid of it now, that play is not available to Matt.
And this is a problem with these multicolor green decks sometimes. Not Matt's deck specifically necessarily, but they're very prone to flood because you often have a lot of mana. Like between both lands and cards like Gift of Paradise and Naga Vitalist, if you don't draw your big payoff cards, you can sort of just peter out. Although, from Matt's perspective, he's just going to sit here every turn and go, all right, please let me draw Sandworm Convergence. Please let me draw Sandworm Convergence. If he can find it before Reed can find a threat, I mean, Reed has this horror, but Matt's got an answer to it.
And the problem is, though, with not the problem, I guess it's good for my team, but Sandworm Convergence, unless Reed has a way to get rid of it, like a Winds Rebuke, it blanks all the flyers that can be made from like his Haymaker of Drakehaven, and the 5/5s blank all the ground creatures like Horror of the Broken Lands and Meter, so Beetle. So it's almost, I have to go look at the deck listing. I think it's actually an auto win in a sense.
It is probably. I looked. I was curious. It's effectively an auto win. I mean, not literally, but we're on the same page.
Yeah.
You'll see Reed go ahead and fire. You saw Reed fire off a Splendid Agony on that Naga Vitalist, and I'll tell you with absolute certainty that's definitely just a nod to the Sandworm Convergence. He doesn't want Matt to just play his 8th mana and play it right now. So he's just going to try to hold him off that 8th land.
It's also obvious he doesn't have any more creatures, so the Splendid Agony is not going to do anything for a while unless he top decks one. And you've got a Beetle and a Serpent and a Horror, so it's not like, a flyer is all you could really use it for.
Well, I agree with you. I think we can also agree that Naga Vitalist wasn't going to do anything either. Like, he could have put Horror of the Broken Lands into play. He's in no rush to get Naga Vitalist off the board.
Read your boy. I was just trying to go along with them and say I get it. I mean, I don't, but it's all right.
He just didn't want to lose to Sandworm Convergence. I'm sure that's actually a pretty good draw. Matt can just go ahead and throw that in play.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to lock down the fort and give him more time to find the Sandworm Convergence, and it wears a Cartouche pretty well, which once it gets rid of a Sandworm's Cryptic Serpent, he's going to have an 8/8 trample that can only really be blocked by Horror. I mean, Reed's play will be probably block and cycle twice or discard twice to try to get it up to 8 power, but we've also got Wrappings and Winds of Rebuke who can really foil that plan. Pulse from tomorrow is so good if you can get to the late game.
Yeah, I'm curious how Reed's going to play it. If he's going to, Matt has a Censor in his deck, so probably not going to let him untap. The question is if he wants to
It's 2 Censors.
Oh, 2 Censors. Yeah, I guess I only saw one, but I guess there's a chance Reed would try to not play this Island or Swamp. So if he were to draw a blue or a black cycling card, he could attack with the Horror and try to either. I mean, Matt would probably take it at that point, but Reed could do something like 8 damage and turn it into a race so he doesn't just lose on the board to the 7/7.
Yeah, the problem is Matt's at 25 already. And Reed doesn't know it, but Matt has Wrappings and Winds of Rebuke, which are pretty, gross against that plan.
Yeah. Well, Reed found some good cards.
Yeah, and he's got a Winds of Rebuke himself, which if he does find the Reed can actually play it hold it. So if the Sandworm Convergence comes out and he can get the Drakehaven to build up some lethal Drakes, and he can bounce it and attack with all the Drakes.
Right. So the issue here is, what does Matt do? I guess he's going to go for the pre-combat Wrappings, which makes sense. Wrappings one, Cartouche the other one, and just try to attack twice. From Reed's perspective, he's just going to have to go Winds into Drakehaven. The problem is it's not a race that's going to be very easy for him to win.
Yeah, I mean, that Sandworm's just going to come right back down. Now, it won't have trample, but none of the cards can block it other than Horror of the Broken Lands, and he doesn't have currently any cards to discard, and you need 2 to get it up to 8.
Right, but he can take one hit after the cartouche falls off. Like, it doesn't kill him in one hit anymore.
Oh, well, now he's got Essence Scatter. Huge draw.
That was a really good draw, yeah.
So he can bounce with the Winds of Rebuke, counter it on the comeback with Essence Scatter, and play Drakehaven if he wants. He's got enough mana for all of that.
So he has 3, 7, 8, 9 if he plays a land, so that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I would expect Reed to make sure that he plays around Censor. I think that was a pretty good draw. I mean, I think Reed was pretty far behind even after drawing 6 or whatever cards before that Essence Scatter.
No, for sure. Without Essence Scatter, he just basically drew a bunch of cards that didn't change what his problem was. None of them answered it. None of them presented a quicker clock. Effectively, they were almost like blanks.
I was going to say I could see playing the Naga Oracle here. From Reed's perspective, the one downside, in my opinion, is if Matt's card in hand is Censor and draws a Censor, you're going to get blown out. I guess he can't cast. I guess that's not even true. He can't cast. Yeah, never mind. I'm just dumb. He doesn't have nearly enough mana to cast Worm and 2 Censors.
Yeah, no, he needs to play this land here. Okay, good. I was like, he needs to play this land or he gets blown out. And he's going to go ahead and do it now. Not even wait for Matt to draw a card.
No real reason not to, I guess. I mean, Matt's just going to go straight to combat. I can't think of any reason to do it now. Matt might choose to cycle in some weird universe.
Find the Sandworm Convergent. That would be wild.
Yeah, it would. I mean, we both know it's not going to happen, but... So Matt lost.
We do have deck lists, so Matt does know he has Essence Scatter's deck. Wow, how crazy would it be if Winds of Rebuke milled the Sandworm Convergence?
Yeah, that's what I was just looking. That's what I was just hoping for.
So supposedly Reed has a lay claim, and he milled it with his Winds of Rebuke.
Does he? I looked. I didn't see it.
I don't know. He milled Sperling's lay claim.
Oh, Sperling's lay claim. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say lay claim is quite the answer to Sandworm Convergence, but no, he milled Sperling's lay claim.
Yeah. So I wonder what Reed's play is here, to be honest. I wonder if he's going to be at all temp. Yeah, I was curious if he was just going to throw this horror out there, and it looks like he is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's better than a Drake and a card when your opponent, I don't know, with your opponent at 21, I kind of like just finding more cards.
Yeah, I think from Reed's perspective, he just wants to kill as quickly as possible, so Matt has less time to find Sandworm Convergence. That's a pretty good draw.
Wow. Yeah, so he gets to get a land out right now. Does he have the mana? 3? No, he's short. He can't do it all right now. I wonder if Matt is at all worried about casting Winds of Rebuke just on the 1 in 10 chance he mills the Sandworm Convergence. Now it's even greater.
I mean, Reed only has 8 cards in his deck. He's probably not super excited to be cycling for that reason either, honestly.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So that makes the Winds of Rebuke Matt has, that could actually be lethal.
Yeah.
He could actually deck Reed.
So that's probably part of the equation. Reed probably just figured that he just wants to win as quickly as possible, and I think Horror of the Broken Lands on average is going to do more damage than the extra card.
No, once you pointed out his deck was 8 cards, cycling.
Yeah, I didn't notice either until I said it, but.
So I think I might have just popped off. Ooh, that's a good draw just because it gives him a block. All he wants is time.
Yep.
I think I might have popped off my Winds of Rebuke end of turn.
On what? The Horror?
The Horror.
Well, the problem is, if you pop it off end of turn, Reed, then it's totally reasonable for Reed to just cycle and make a Drake. Like, you're not preventing that much damage.
No, if you do it into turn, Reed's deck goes down to 5. If he cycles, it goes to 4. He draws up to 3. I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. You're right. I wasn't thinking about the mill for 2 strongly enough.
No, did he not cast Spring at all?
He just drew 2, and he drew land and another Spring to mind.
Oh, okay, that's what happened. I was wondering where it went, but one's exiled and one's in his hand.
Right.
Oh my God! If he draws Heaven to Earth, this game is over.
Yeah, it is.
Because he can just kill the board and then go deck Reed. So he's got 15 cards in his deck. 2 of them are ridiculous here. Although Sandworm Convergence, let's see, if it comes down, it doesn't stop anything from attacking. The 5/5 can block the Horror. I don't think it does enough.
I don't know. Does he have enough to cast Sandworm Convergence and Winds Rebuke? 1, 2, 3, 4. He's taking 6, going to 7.
Yes.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So the horror's dead. Yeah, it's close.
And here comes the crab, which actually presents lethal. The deadly 1/5.
Yeah, Heaven Earth, I think, is clearly a better draw at this point than Sandworm Convergence.
5 plus 6 is 11. So he's actually got enough mana. He's got enough mana to play both his cards and Spring or Mind.
Well, he was probably going to Mind first, right? So green, red, 1, 2, 3. So Heaven Earth here, if he doesn't draw a land with it, well, Naga Oracle does a lot.
Yeah, he can even actually keep the mana up for Winds Rebuke. So I think this is actually backbreaking here. Because he can bounce the hit Horror of the Broken Lands, the 4/4, block a Hemkin Sentinels with the Naga Oracle, and block a 2/4 with his 1/2 and take 4. So he can actually block it. He can block numerous ways.
Yeah, that's tricky though, because you don't want to put yourself in a spot where Reed knows you're going to cast Heaven Earth, and then he gets to cycle the Horror and make a flyer. Like if he draws another cycler, like I don't know how many cards Sperling put on top.
Well, he put 1 forest in the graveyard and kept the next 2.
Okay, so I mean, what else could it be, right?
There's nothing else you would keep other than those 2 cards.
Unless he has more card draw.
Even then, you wouldn't keep the card draw because it's not going to draw more than 2 cards. You would just get rid of them and find the next card, right?
Well, I mean, if he had, for example, Hieroglyphic Illumination, which he actually has, he might put Sandworm Convergence on top and then Hieroglyphic Illumination beneath it.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not sure.
But I was saying he at least found one of them if he kept both on top.
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I agree. I just meant it could not be both.
No, yeah. I was saying it wasn't 0 or he would have milled all 3.
Oh,
wait. Someone says it was forced for a censor. It put them at the bottom of the deck? It doesn't put them in order?
Oh, that's weird. So Winds of Rebuke the Horror. I don't like this play. I honestly, I can't explain it. I have a feeling this is not ideal. Like if he mills, I don't know. What did he hit? I can't see his graveyard.
Oh, you can't see what Matt milled.
Right.
Illumination and Island, assuming it keeps them in order.
Okay. So I don't know what to do if I'm Reed here. It's tricky. I think, is there any way?
So he's putting Matt to 3 right now, right?
Right. So I think if I'm Reed, I'm going to... Wow.
And he's got to keep that card in his hand. Because say he next turn casts Heaven Earth, you can end of turn always make a Horror and then make a Drake, and you've got exactly 2 attacks.
Yeah, the question is if you play the Heckma Sentinels or flashback the 2/1.
Can he not do both?
No, I mean if you do any.
Yeah, because you want to live through Heaven Earth.
Because you want to live through Heaven Earth, right? Because then at end of turn you make a Drake, you untap, you play 2 more creatures. The problem is the way Reed's board is set up, he doesn't really have lethal versus any creature. Like he does with the cycling, but if Matt realizes what's going on, he can just not cast Heaven Earth on his turn if he has a creature to play. I don't know. It's very complicated.
And what happens if it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12? If it's Sandworm Convergence, he effectively has a 5/5, a 3/3, and a 2/4. If it's Sandworm Convergence, I think it's over.
Unless Reed plays both. Like Reed could just play Heckma Sentinels and flashback his creature, and then he's still he doesn't have lethal, I guess.
Yeah, because he'll have 3 blockers to block the 3 biggest. 4, 5, 6.
This is an extremely tricky thing. I mean, ultimately, I think Reed have
Reed has 4 creatures right now. If you were to put 2 more ground creatures on the board, and then Matt draws Sandworm Convergence, Matt can play both his cards, and he'll have 3 blockers, so there'll be 3 unblocked creatures, which is lethal.
Right.
But if he ends up drawing Heaven Earth, then you lose everything you have.
Right.
So
Reed's... The problem is I don't think Reed can play in a way where he beats Sandworm Convergence, so I don't think he will. I mean, right now I'm sure he's thinking about it, but I think
he beats Sandworm Convergence if he plays both his creatures, or if he puts 2 creatures on the board, whether it be Embalm, because he'll have 6 creatures versus 3.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right, actually. My mistake. Wow, that's tough. So, I mean, part of the issue for Reed is I don't know exactly what the last 3 cards in Reed's deck are, but that's big too. Like, Reed can effectively, given that He can cycle once. He's going to try to figure out right now exactly, like, one of the cards in Reed's deck is a blue cartouche. I don't know if we've seen that yet.
Wow, and Matt draws a land.
Sweltering Suns, I don't think we've seen that. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Sweltering Suns got milled.
Okay, I mean, it's over now, right?
Yeah, because he can only block the 2s, and he takes 4, so yeah, that's it.
Wow, what a game. I mean, I feel like Matt got really, really unlucky that game to not find any of his cards.
Yeah, I mean, they're both on the bottom of his deck. If they're ever at any point earlier, he wins.
Yeah.
So here goes a Drake. And that should be game. Oh, and a Scarab Feast. That's another Drake. If he wants to go down to 1 card in his deck.
Yeah, he's just gonna figure out if he needs to. I don't know Matt's deck list well enough. I'm not gonna pour over it to figure out exactly everything, but I'll let Reed do it.
All right, so yeah, this one is over. What a game. Crazy game.
Was a crazy game. Interesting, like, had Reed not cycled his, like, compelling argument, like, had it just been a different cycling card early in the game and he had compelling argument left to draw, it would have, like, completely changed the dynamic of the game towards the end. Like, Reed would have felt pressure to win. He just knows if he ever draws it, he wins. Like, if he could keep Sperling within, like, 5 cards of him.
Pretty gross. A pretty weird decision by Matt to bring in Rags to Riches. I mean, none of the creatures seem to really die to the -2 other than Drake's and the Top Crop Elite or Skirmisher.
Yeah. Matt just might think he wants powerful cards. Like, Riches taking a Horror of the Broken Land is totally fine. The Rags part doesn't seem exciting at all, but I guess from Matt's perspective, he just wants a way to clean up Drakes.
Yeah, I guess it cleans up Drakes, but I figure, like, Riches is going to get you a Hemkin Sentinels or a Crab almost every time.
Yeah, or Dune Beetle, although Reed's taking it out. Ooh, Violent Impact. Spike that Gift of Paradise land.
Yeah, that sounds like a play right up your playbook.
Oh, yeah.
I know I know. I know.
I remember. I did it to you. Remember? What did I do?
You did do it to me. You boarded in 2 land destruction decks when I had an amazing seal that one of, like, the most couple years ago, less than a year and a half.
Madison, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. And you were my only one. I was 8-1 as usual on day 1, and you got me with double Stone Rain back to back, and I didn't draw any more lands.
Yep, that's what happened. Your deck was so good. I remember I was like, well, I'm not going to win this one straight up. I need some Stone Rains.
No, yeah, it was a good beat. At the time, I wasn't happy about it. Now I can joke about it.
Yeah, I know. Time heals all wounds.
It does. It does. So it looks like Matt's going up to 42, running the 4 deuce.
We've had a lot of interesting stuff happen in our Magic career. Like the time we played 3 matches in a day of a tournament.
No, it was not 3. Oh yeah, it was pod 1, pod 2, and top 8.
Yep.
And is that the only? I don't know how often that's ever happened.
I don't either. It can't be very common.
That's pretty rough.
Then remember when we should have won Grand Prix Con?
Yeah. We were the original PGO. Me, you, and Dan OMS.
Yep.
All right, so Matt, he had an Unburden. He's bringing in some black. Matt is going deep.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. I respect it, honestly.
I love it. I love seeing my teammate go deep. It's weird that, like, in normal team drafts right now, we'd all be huddled with our teammates coming up with a plan together. So it's hard to watch him go on his own. Not that he's doing it wrong. I want to jump in there and help out and give some suggestions, but
yeah, I know what you mean.
I approve. I approve this message. He's got a Pitiless Vizier in there. Look at that. Just a 4 deuce. Heaven Earth coming out? What? I don't approve of that.
Yeah, I don't really understand the logic of that.
Heaven Earth just came out last minute. That was, like, one of his probably best card to draw that game.
Like, the problem is I don't understand why you'd board in Rags to Riches over Heaven Earth against Drakehaven. I think it's just worse. It's so much harder for him to cast, don't you think?
100% agree.
Yeah. Unless I really just don't know. Matt's hand is really, really bad. I wonder if he chose to play or draw.
TDSL 2 is first, so he chose to play.
Okay.
So Paul won against Owen. So right now we're up to 1, but based on this opening hand, and it looks like it's going to be all tied up again after this.
Yeah, up a game. We're whatever. We're decent favorites to tie it up, but we'll see. I mean, you know, they haven't even started.
I love seeing the new perspectives. Love it.
Oh yeah, you see these two just go to the sideboard and go like, "Oh yeah."
He's like, I raise.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's see. Matt is still thinking about. I don't think you can keep this hand. I mean, you do have a cycler, but like, I don't know. Oh, he kept it. Well, let's cross our fingers that we get a game out of it. This is the kind of hand where we could just not have a game. Although Reed's deck doesn't really beat down quickly, so maybe that's a lot of logic.
I'm somewhat surprised Matt chose to keep his hand, to be honest with you. But
I'm very surprised, but
whatever. I don't hate it.
No, I don't hate it. Reed's deck is fast, and he actually might get to censor this friggin' Drakehaven, which would be insane.
I doubt it.
I don't think Reed's going to walk right into it, but one can hope. Oh, he's going to get the scribe of the... He's going to get this guy out. Infinite with Wandering Death. So he did pause, and his land's highlighted from Reed's point of view, so it looks like he was about to cast something he didn't. So he's kind of giving away a little bit. Although maybe Reed will level himself and think that was a bluff to try to bluff the censor.
There's no real gain. Reed doesn't even have a cycling card. Like he can just throw the Heckma Sentinels out there and let that get censored. Maybe he'd rather have Drakehaven get censored. That I don't know. What are the odds that Reed cycles Deemworthy for 0 mana this game?
That would be pretty special. You want to see something?
Yeah.
I thought he was asleep. Man, he looked like he was asleep. He was passed out.
He must be bored at not knowing what the cards do.
Yeah, no, it's pretty rough. I kind of want to pause and tell him, but I feel like, you know, the viewers are like, come on, man, we know what the hell Deemworthy is. So here comes the Quarry Hauler. Get those beats going. Which, other than there's a Deemworthy. He has to cast it for the full value, though. And then he's also going to have the Emberhorn Mauler coming out. So he's actually got his draws lined up pretty well against what...
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt's reasonably ahead. But the problem is, you know, obviously, Sperling can't cast his red card, and this 2/2 is going to give Reed a very prime opportunity to cycle Deemworthy and make a Drake.
He could also, if he doesn't, cycle Deemworthy onto the Quarry Hauler and block with the Drake.
That's true.
Which is actually a really good play. Ooh, Matt punished, or no, he drew an island. Let's say if he had, the lag in the hand and what was in play, it looked like he had an island in hand and one in play, and I was like, oh, if he left a forest up, he could have cast the Exemplar. But that was just some lag in the display of the hand.
See if Reed throws a cartouche on this ancient crab, throws a cartouche on this ancient crab to protect it from Matt's 2 cartouches.
That would be a pretty sick play.
I think he'll do it. My read on the situation is that he'll do it. He also just wants to find more cards in his deck.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, what's that cartouche going to go on?
Right.
So the cartouche gives +1/+1 in flying. Now he's got a 2/6, so the cartouche of strength will make it a 5 for it and won't be able to fight and kill it.
Like, it's fine from Matt's perspective. He could just attack in cartouche post-combat because it would only have 2 damage on it. And oh, no, he can't. My mistake. 2 + 2 is 4. 2 + 2 is 4, Huey. Yeah.
I mean, it is 2 for 2, but he did draw a card off his cartouche, so it's a pretty crummy trade.
No, it's horrible. I just got confused.
But you got to get that guy out of the way eventually. Oh, he drew Sandworm Convergence. So here he just wants to build up his mana and get to the Sandworm Convergence.
Right. He exemplared onto the Quarry Hauler. Wow.
Oh, look at this. Heads up play by Matt. That's a pretty sweet play.
Yeah.
Deemworthy is going to make that kind of not as exciting, but if he didn't have Deemworthy, he'd be in trouble against the 5/5 trample.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wonder if Reed had any, like, Forsake the Worldly in his sideboard or something. Let's see.
I drafted the only one I saw.
I'm certain he put in New Perspective. Reduced to Rubble. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm certain, but I would I would make it a heavy favorite.
Ooh, Violent Impact. He is on your team. Get that mountain.
Yeah, he will.
He might just want to play news perspectives right now.
Yeah. I guess he won't. So Matt, interestingly, although he has 7 mana, he actually only has one mountain, 2 forests. I wonder what Reed would even go after, given the opportunity.
Right, because getting rid of a forest would have allowed him to cut off the convergence if he didn't draw one. But here we go.
Yeah, that's probably going to be all she wrote for this one.
Yeah, Matt kept a hand that we both thought was a little speculative, and it seemed he drew into it. It worked out pretty well. So Reed's going to need Winds of Rebuke and some way to get rid of it out of play. I don't even know how or what. The problem with these Drakes, I guess the Drakes can block. 3 Drakes can trade 2 for 1 on a worm.
Yep, well, that's a decent draw.
So this card says creatures with flying can't attack you, and it makes a 5/5 every turn. That's a pretty gross card. And this one, every time you cycle, you can pay a mana to make a 2/2 Drake, but they can't attack, so.
Is there any cards that he has that can deal with Sandworm Convergence?
He has a card that bounces it, so ideally, I think Huey can correct me if I'm wrong. His plan is to. Well, there's no counter to stop that in Reed's deck, from what I know, but he can build up an army of flyers, maybe 10 of them that are lethal, bounce the Sandworm Convergence and attack for lethal. I think that's the kind of plan he's got to work towards.
Sounds right to me. He has a long road ahead, but it's possible.
Yeah, it's rough with it making a 5/5 every turn, and then he's at 14, so that's only 3 hits from a 5/5.
Yep. He also has to actually find these cards.
Which, when you're cycling and you have Pull from Tomorrow about to happen, which also makes a Drake, you're going to be able to burn through his deck. But again, we could run into the same problem too, where it gets decked again.
Yep.
So Matt just playing out. He's going to play out his hand and just keep gaining life and just trying to make worms and eventually get there.
Yep.
And being at 23 now, it's going to take 12 flyers, which is really tough with only 17 cards left in his deck. Because he's going to have to pull for quite a bit, which will leave him I don't know if it'll leave him enough to cycle to make 9 more flyers.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know if there's any chance he can ever get through any creatures on the ground. Seems somewhat unlikely.
Yeah, not making a 5/5 every turn.
Maybe he can. I guess his cartouche is gone.
And the cartouche doesn't get past. You have to have a turn where you Winds of Rebuke and cartouche is a hit Horror of the Broken Lands.
Right, that's what I was thinking, but he doesn't even have the cartouche anymore.
Can I ask you guys a question about the Sandworm Convergence? Is that card good enough to be a first pick that you would kind of build your deck in an effort to try to cast?
I think so. I don't draft those kinds of decks in this format. I like fast, quick decks. I try to win before turn 8, but lots of people do it. It's not uncommon. It's nothing wrong with that strategy. It's a pretty solid card. What do you think, Huey? William?
I think it is. Green is not maybe the best color, but that's a really strong card. I don't really love those kind of ramp decks in this format as much as some people do, but I do think it's a viable strategy.
Yeah, so it sounds like me and Huey agree mostly on things like that in this format. But people do it. They succeed with it all the time.
I'm not exactly sure what Reed's trying to do now by trading Drakes for the worm.
The problem is he's at 10. I don't think, what can he do?
I don't know.
Ideally, building up to cast Winds of Rebuke, but at the same time, I almost wish Pull from Tomorrow was like Brain Geyser. You could target your opponent. That would be his out.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Well, there's the Winds of Rebuke, but I don't know how he can build up enough creatures to do anything.
Yeah, Matt being at 23 is just so rough. He can, I don't know. He's got, a Gale Strike and Electrify, and Final Reward is removal for worms, but to be able to play them all and have some ground guys get through for enough.
I just don't think his deck can beat the card. Ultimately, I think he's just giving it his all, but he's just fighting through it and hoping something weird happens, but I just don't see.
Reed is the kind of guy, which I respect. You could be at 4 and you have 6 guys, you draw one. He's going to say go and make you turn those guys sideways. He's not going to just scoop his cards up.
Yep. But, you know, in the long run, one time in 1,000, it works out for him. So.
Oh, for sure. No, it's way more diligence and patience than I have.
We actually all play that way for the most part. I mean, especially in tournaments or whatever. You never know what's going to happen, you know?
Yeah, no, I always remember the story with Jason Zila, and I think it was Tony Dobson in that Masters. I think you guys ended up splitting that Masters, but Zila was stasis locked, and there was no way he could win the game. Like, literally no way.
Yeah.
And I believe, like, Tony drew a card when he shouldn't have or whatever, and back then that was like an automatic loss.
Right.
And Zila sat there for, almost an hour, just never untapping, just drawing and discarding, and Tony didn't have a kill spell. And one time he drew like twice because he forgot it was his main or something. You don't have an untap step or an upkeep.
Right.
He drew in and drew again, and he lost the match. And Zila went on to split that tournament with you for like 25,000.
Yeah, it was first Masters. That was a fun tournament.
And I would have conceded just because of boredom. Like, I'm not going to sit here when a guy's in stasis locked and I have no way to get out.
It's human nature when you're losing and you know you're going to lose to want it to end also, which people don't appreciate. Like, when you're playing against a control deck, the game sometimes takes half an hour for you to lose when you know you have no chance the whole time. Yeah, and it's pretty agonizing to sit there and just tough it out. It's like very, very stressful and demoralizing. So that's part of it, truly. Like you're saying, like, nobody wants to sit there stasis locked for an hour, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays in that spot, I think if you drew the card there, they're going to thought seize him and put it back or whatnot. You're not going to get a free win. But back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, the rules were a lot more strict.
We were talking about the giant growth cast, and it touched Mike Long's Morphling. And because the card touched the Morphling, it was ruled that, like, the Morphling got giant growth by his opponent.
Yeah, well, he was on another level also. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to convince the judges to do a lot of things, too, which was kind of bizarre.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So we can Gale Strike a Worm, get a card, save 5 damage, put some Drakes in front of the Imbahar Minotaur. But again, like, the more you block with Drakes, the less you can.
Yeah, I don't really think there's anything Reed can do at this point. Like, I don't know. I don't see how he can get 12 Drakes in play.
Well, he can't, right? He has 8 cards in his deck, and you have to cycle or discard, but he doesn't have any ways to really discard. So he has to cycle to make a Drake. He could at most make 7 Drakes if he counts his draw phase.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. So he also has to survive.
And you only get 1 shot at the attack because it comes down. It comes right back down.
Right. I'm looking at his sideboard again just in case I missed something.
That's something he brought in.
I don't think I did.
And the compelling arguments in the graveyard also for that plan. Even though he's so far down, 5 cards won't make a difference. He's 10 cards deeper.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything.
Matt actually has an interesting play. He can actually Winds of Rebuke in response to a cycle if it happens with 2 cards or less in his deck for an instant win. If Reed gets down to 2 cards,
right.
Cycle again.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I think this is just one of those scenarios where Matt knows he's won, Reed knows he's lost, and they're just... On Magic Online, though, you can't draw an extra card. You can't, no judge is going to win it for Reed, so...
Yeah, this is a spot where if you drew Rags to Riches here, all those Drakes are gone. Although Heaven and Earth does the same thing.
Yeah, I doubt if Matt drew a card like that here, he would even bother to cast it. Like, I wouldn't show Reed Rags to Riches in my deck before the 3rd game.
Yeah. So he bounced his Drake Haven.
Oh, because Reed was going to clean up.
Yeah, and when you discard and clean up, you get to tap a colorless and make a Drake, which is actually pretty sweet. So he's got 6 Drakes, which is 12 damage, and that's just still not enough. And Reed has to deal with these creatures attacking. He does have an Electrify, which is going to kill 1. And a Winds of Rebuke, which can kill another, but he's only got 4 cards left in his deck, and a few Winds of Rebukes here.
See, Reed just playing by the book. Like, triple block a creature, you got a pump spell that I know is not in your deck? Nope, okay, I'll final reward it. I mean, that's just how he is.
Yeah, I noticed the chat was like, I don't get why he's blocking here. I mean, the reason you would make that block normally in a match is you don't know their deck list. They might just pull the trigger on a giant growth, and then you can 2-for-1 them. Here, we know deck list, there's no real point in it, but you should get in a habit if you play matches and you're going to kill a creature in combat like that, to block first, to see what they do.
Only in the event where you know they don't have a card like Counterspell also, though.
Right. If you do it and then you counter, and then you kind of blow yourself out.
I guess, for example, Matt has Spidery Grasp in his sideboard, so you can't be too sure he didn't bring it in.
Yeah, it's not a bad play. So I wonder if he's going to bring the Heaven Earth back in. I wonder if he realized after looking at all those Drakes pile up that Heaven Earth is just better than Rags to Riches. So Heaven Earth is a split card where the front half is an instant Hurricane, but doesn't do players. So what's that card called? The one that doesn't do players is instant? That's a card. Green X to all flyers.
Sandstorm?
Sandstorm. And then once it's in your graveyard, all those cards you can cast the second half out of your graveyard, it's red for Earthquake, but don't do players to ground creatures. And that's a sorcery saw. So Matt actually sideboarded that out, which is great against the Drake making and the ground creatures. And he brought in a different card that on the front half it's Infest, which gives all the creatures -2/-2. And then out of your graveyard for 7 mana, it is your opponent gives you a creature they control of their choice. So you kill the little guys and then cast the other half and have to give you one, the big ones they have left. I'm explaining to Brian Hacker here what this card does for those of you wondering why I'm iterating what Rags and Riches are. So look, the Pitiless Vizier came out, which again I didn't know why it came in. It's coming back in. Get out of there. Get out of there. All right. We don't need no 4/2. Rags to Riches is out. God, I want him to put that Heaven Earth back in. So it wasn't Sandstorm, Huey. It was Windstorm.
Windstorm, my mistake. Sandstorm was like deal 1 damage to attackers.
yeah, Sandstorm's not going to cut it. Windstorm is what we're looking for.
Yeah, you're right.
I remember these are the kind of matches that when there's 1 or 2 cards that your opponent is using to win the match, where really esoteric sideboard cards can all of a sudden become playable.
Oh, that's what we're seeing with Matt here, and I guess I don't know if Reed has much to sideboard in like that. He brought in Violent Impact, which is a Stone Rain for 4 that has cycling. Can also get artifacts, but there's no artifacts in Matt's deck. But yeah, basically.
For sure, if Reed had like a white or a green disenchant, it would just be in his deck, 100%.
For sure.
I guarantee it, yeah.
There was a late Forsake the Wildly. I think I was passing toward Reed. I actually scooped up, which is pretty sweet. And Reed's hand here, I think he got a mole.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Reed kept.
And Matt's got a fantastic. It doesn't even look like the same deck. He's got.
Well, the only problem with Matt's hand, if he doesn't draw a mountain, he can't do anything.
Yeah, or Painted Bluffs.
Well, right, a red mana, whatever.
Some way to make red. But if he does, his draw is going to come out fast.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Reed's poised to stumble a little bit.
So even if he doesn't draw land, he does have a cycle next turn to try to find it.
What do you think about that play from Matt? Do you think it's close between playing your Naga Vitalist and just cycling your Sandworm? I think it's pretty close.
I think it's close. My instinct says Vitalist, but Sandworm could easily be right because it doesn't really speed you up on your curve right here. Although now it looks like a genius.
Yeah, now it looks genius. Yeah, I agree with that. Now that is a reasonable reason though. I mean, he does have 2 of those in his deck.
So yeah, now that going back, I'll take it back. With having 2, I think it's a no-brainer then.
Yeah, I forgot about that also.
So he's got to worry about Essence Scatter. He knows he's got the sensors, so he doesn't have to worry about that.
Reed will throw this wrappings on it, and it'll slow it down to doing 1 every other turn.
What's your thoughts on wrappings?
It's okay. I mean, it's not great, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it seems like it does work, which is surprising to me because it just looks like a poor rate. I think if it cost blue and a colorless, it would be a lot better, obviously. But I think it would be more playable, like more likely that I would play it for 2 mana, but for 3 it's just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's bad against the Exert creatures is one of the big problems with it. Cycling that sensor is actually really good for Reed.
Yeah, I feel like Reed has a lot of times where he's going to have to tap out, or unless I really needed something, which I don't think Matt does on this board, I might not cycle that for a while.
Well, he does want to hit land drops to play the Sandworm, I guess.
Yeah, now he gets to put that counter on the Imborn Minotaur, which I'm surprised he didn't attack an Exert.
Yeah, he should have attacked for 1. That's just, I think, just an error.
Yeah, it's something that's not intuitive. You don't think about it. Like, oh, this is 0-2, gets to ping him for 1 real quick.
Right, I totally agree, but I mean, whatever.
If we get him down to 1 and lose, I'm going to make sure to give him a tongue lashing when we talk about what happened. Man, this is a rough spot for Reed here.
He just has to play Cryptic Serpent.
Which, if Matt draws a land, he gets to play the Greater Sandworm.
Yeah.
And then
I mean, Reed's in trouble, surely. But from Reed's perspective, his only play is clearly to play Cryptic Serpent, because it can hold off all the creatures, and it can trade with the Manticore if Reed wants. Which really, from Reed's perspective, trading with the Manticore is fine, right? Then he can just play Horror of the Broken Lands. That keeps everything out of cartouche range.
So what do you think? What do you think about either the two choices are casting Spring or Mind out of your graveyard or Spring in your hand?
Probably Mind out of the graveyard.
Yeah. So play it main phase. So you can play a land now. So if you draw one next turn, you can have a second draw. Second land drop. So if you're going to do that, do you attack with Manticore here first?
I would attack with Manticore. That would be my play.
Just get them both off the board. Don't let them put a blue cartouche on it.
It's unclear to me if Reed would even block, but I would attack with Manticore first.
I think being at 13, he kind of has to block.
I think so too, because he has the Horror and he doesn't want his Horror to get cartouched by the Manticore. But yeah, this is how I would play if I were Matt.
Yeah, so if I'm Matt now, I draw 2 out of my graveyard with the Mind. It looks like he is perfect. Love my teammate. Love him. So this is actually good. He drew another one, so he can actually leave a black open and cycle if he wants to make his guy 6/5, which is pretty huge here. He's going to go with the New Perspectives and draw 3 cards.
Didn't draw a land.
Yeah, that's a rough beat because now he's going to take 4 here and go to 9, and Matt's going to get to play the Sandworm. So then no matter what he plays, Matt can cartouche it, eat it, and then have an 8/8 Trampler. So I think that could be game.
Yeah. Well, Reed has the option to just cycle Horror of the Broken Lands for 0 mana, try to hit a land drop because of the New Perspectives.
Right. I think that's what he's thinking of. So this card allows you to draw 3 cards, and if you have 7 cards in your hand, you can cycle for 0. Any of your cards with cycling. And these 2 cards have cycling for 1 black, but now they also have cycling for 0 mana. And to answer Dispel for the win, I wasn't upset with my teammate at all. But I'm not going to ever sugarcoat it. I'm going to question plays from whether my teammates or not. Whenever I'm doing commentary, I don't care who it is. I'm going to question plays if they are worthy of a question. And I'm not even saying I'm always right. As me and William said about the turn 2 Vitalist versus cycling, we quickly readjusted once we remembered something about his deck list, which Matt obviously knows. But I'm not going to ever get upset at my teammate. I mean, we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. I made some this weekend. Matt made some this weekend. Paul, of course, did not make any because he plays perfectly. But
the only time I ever got upset at a teammate was when he didn't show up.
Exactly.
You remember that, Hacker?
Yeah, that was a callback right there. I was not upset with your teammate.
Hacker was it was a team pro tour, and Hacker was my opponent in that match where my teammate didn't show up.
So Electrify here. So that's his 8th mana, so he could actually play like a Sentinels and then Electrify the Charioteer. But if Sperling cartouches to kill whatever he plays on the Sandworm plus the Naga Vitalist happens to be 9 and is lethal. And looks like he's just going to make that play exactly. And I think if Matt makes the play I just described, that's going to be game.
He might just attack out of fear of
Winds of Rebuke. Which is also a fine play.
It's totally reasonable because does he have enough? He doesn't even have enough mana to play the Sandworm again if it gets winds. He goes for the cartouche. So attacking is probably correct.
Right. We can see his hand. He can't. Although it looks like he's just going to go for it.
He might be cartouching the Charioteer even or something weird. Yeah. That doesn't surprise me either.
Which is great.
Yeah. That's a good play. I think that's actually probably precise because now if Reed like Castle Windsor and Electrify, Matt can just cartouche the Serpent and win, or the Sandworm, and win.
Exactly, for sure. Yeah, I mean, we also know he has Final Reward. He has Winds of Rebuke. He has Electrify. He has so many removal spells that you don't want to get sent at your Greater Sandworm. And then now he gets to play the Cartouche afterward. He had that queued up. So for Hacker to get that, their name of Huey, Reed, and Owen's team is the Peach Garden Oath, and they're easily the best team in Magic. I mean, they won the GP this weekend. They crushed. Everyone knows. And you guys get second place in San Antonio.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the best. So their name is the Peach Garden Oath at the Ripard. So Matt's comment about nectarines being better than peaches. I guess we're the Nectarine Garden Oath. Right? I don't know what that means, but we got to have some fun considering we both came into day 2 at 8-1, and you guys carried the torch, and we went to the bottom with an embarrassing showing on day 2.
Yeah, that happens sometimes in Team Sealed. You just get really bad pools, and then.
Yeah, I mean, it was a combination. Well, we can't blame the pools completely. I mean,
I didn't really see him. I'm just guessing.
Matt says he Paul made an error. He said match 1 because we lost all our losses in game 3 of match 3, and Paul said he may have questioned a play he made. I made an error, I think, in round 2, and then Matt made one, I think, in round 3. So, like, any of those, we played tighter. We could have been in contention. So we can't blame the pool. I mean, the pools weren't great.
It happens, yeah. Like I made at least one mistake that I remember, like one, discernible mistake, and I just didn't get punished for it. And there's also some luck there too. Like if your mistake happens to cost you, it might only cost you 10% of the time. If you realize that loss, it's bad for you.
No, that's the thing about these team tournaments, especially late when you're playing other great teams. You can't give any edges away. You can't. I mean, you gotta maximize every edge you can because nobody's giving it back.
Right. Exactly. I agree.
Man, that was pretty amazing. That was a pretty awesome match. I'm not just saying it because of the result, though. I mean, obviously, game 3 was kind of deflating, but the first 2 games are pretty incredible.
Oh, it was cool. I mean, the first game, I think we got a little bit lucky, and the second game, Matt got a little bit lucky, and then the third game, whatever. But yeah, it was interesting. I mean, the games were long, and there was a lot of there were a lot of exciting moments. It was
better than Owen, just playing 2-2s every turn.
Yeah, exactly. I think Paul and I are up next. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember the schedule exactly, but
yeah, they want to try to get everyone on camera first. So I think you and Paul are up in the front match, and me versus Reed is the back match.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break so that me and Huey can get ready for our matches, and you'll be joined by, I believe, Matt and Owen. So enjoy, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in a bit.
Looking for a challenge?